There we go. Okay, recording. All right, let me go find my, actually, I don't want this. I want to talk about the test. I want to get into the test review. So let's do it this way. This is what I want. So if you want to know where the test review is, you go to content. I go to exam 2 items. Once I find it, and there we are. And there's a review key in the review. So we're going to talk with the review today. Whatever we don't do today, I would go over it and make sure you can do it all. So let me click this. The test is through HonorLock as usual, right? Same thing. All right, the deal with the test. So I should mention, I put it online, but with this test, it's through HonorLock, it's through MathLab. Some of this is free response. Because of that, I gave you 2 chances. All right, so you get 2 tries. All right, so it makes it a little easier, I think, but some of it is like free response. Okay. So we're gonna talk about what I put on there. All right, so the test covers 5.1 through 5.3 and 10.1, which is really nothing, into through 10.3. All right, so we're gonna talk about what I expect. Now, I did put a factoring problem on there too. Actually, let me download this. Be able to just click on that. No, I don't want the HTML. Hold on, I got to download your review. Let's see, how do we do that? Where's the download button? There it is. No, that's not it. Where's the download? For some reason, I can't find the down. There we go. Do it here. No, I can't. How come I can't download this? Oh, there we go. Download. I'd rather have a PDF. All right. Let me get a little bit bigger so you guys, so I can see it better. It's not going bigger. Oh, here we go. We'll do this. All right, there we go. So I did put some factoring on there for you. Just really important that you factor, and that's one review item. You should be able to factor. Do I need to go through number 1, how to factor? You guys feel like you could do that, right? Because we've done a lot of it, right? Okay. So I have a solve by factoring. I have a couple of those on there. Solve by factoring, I did not put quadratic equation on the test because, you know, unless you absolutely love quadratic, there's no need for it, all right? So you should be able to solve by factoring. Do I need to go through number 2? You guys tell me what I need to do. Are we good? You could factor that? Yeah, okay. All right, so you should be able to simplify rational expressions. The whole deal there is factor and cancel, right? And there is a typo here on 3A. This should be, let me draw. Where's my pen? You let me draw? I'll do it this way. I'll just load it up in a window. Insert. Print out. Sorry, for some reason it's not letting me write, so we'll do it this way. There we go. All right. There we go. This should be a 25 on 3A. Otherwise, it doesn't factor. This right here should be x squared minus 25 over the bottom, right? X squared minus 4x minus 4. So a little typo there. Minus 5. Do I need to go over 3A or B with you? Basically, you have to factor it out and cancel it. You guys tell me. Do you go over them or no? No? Okay. So factor, cancel, you should be able to do that. Now, vertical asymptotes, those are coming from a video. A vertical asymptote happens where the bottom equals 0. So I just take the bottom of the fraction, which is x minus 4, and I set it to 0. And then I move the 4 over, obviously, and I get x equals 4. That would be the vertical asymptote. Okay, that's on one of the videos. Another way to do it, just to kind of show you a few options. I mean, it's easy enough there, but TI, get my calculator up. Let's talk about what a vertical asymptote is. I'm going to graph it so you can see it. All right, so if I go into y equals and I graph that function 2 over x minus 4, I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way. All right, so if I graph this thing, you can see at 4, the blue curve kind of splits apart. That's your vertical asymptote. The function will never cross a vertical asymptote. If you go to the table at x equals 4, you can see an error. That's your vertical asymptote, right? It's undefined right there. Okay, so that's your domain too, so x can't be 4. All right, so you should be able to solve a rational equation. That was on a video. That was 5, whatever it was. We did the simplifying. I think it's 10.2. Do you want me? I probably need to go over one of these because you haven't seen me do one live. So which one do you want me to do? A, B, or C?
C.
C looks scary, right? Okay. So when you solve a rational equation, you want to multiply by the common denominator. The common denominator is combining all the bottoms. So I have, everything. I have an x plus 2 and an x plus 3. That would be the least common multiple. So what you're going to do is you're going to multiply every term by that least common multiple. So I'm going to multiply by x plus 2, x plus 3. I'm going to do that to every term. All right, so what that's going to do, when you multiply by the least common multiple, it's going to cancel. You're not going to have fractions anymore because the x plus 2's cancel. And I have an x times x plus 3. This will get rid of all the bottoms. And here the x plus 2 cancels, the x plus 3 cancels, so I have plus 2. Here the x plus 3 cancels, so I have 5 times x plus 2. So when you multiply by the common denominator, that gets rid of all the fractions. That's what should happen. All right, and now I have kind of easy math to do, kind of easy, all right? So I'm going to distribute stuff through and solve. So I have x squared plus 3x plus 2. Distribute the 5, so I get that equals 5x plus 10, okay? My next step, because you have an x squared in there, it has to be equal to 0, so you're going to move stuff over. So I'm going to minus 5x, and I'm going to minus 10, so I get 0 on the right-hand side. So I'm left with x squared, 3 minus 5 is negative 2x, 2 minus 10 is negative 8. Is that right? Equals 0. And that is going to factor, okay? It should factor, all right? So you need, now that I've got this, I need factors of negative 8 that add to negative 2, which are what? All right, I think I heard it, negative 4 and 2, very quietly. Somebody's mic's quiet, but all right, so negative 4 and 2. So this would factor x minus 4 and x plus 2 equals 0. So if I set, to figure the factors, I just said x minus 4 equal to 0 and x plus 2 equal to 0. We're going to talk about that in a minute. That's really important there. So I get x equals 4. And if I minus 2, I get x equals negative 2. Now, here's the catch that you have to remember with rational expressions. You're going to go back to the original equation. If you plug negative 2 back into it, I get, I'm going to go over here. I have x over x plus 2. Well, if I plug negative 2, I get negative 2 over basically 0. So whatever makes the bottom equal to 0 is not allowed. So usually what I do is at first I go up and I say, all right, so the bottom equals 0 at negative 2. The bottom equals 0 at negative 2 here because the x plus 2 and negative 3. So I'll make a little note. X cannot be negative 2 or negative 3 because that's what makes the bottom 0. That's unallowed. All right, that's your vertical asymptote. Is that all right? So I'm gonna cross this answer out. So my only answer is x equals 4. Okay. Now, solving equations, I also want to mention, because you have a graphing calculator, you can also use the graphing calculator. I'm going to plug this into the graphing calculator, remind you how to do that. So to do it on a graphing calculator, you can plug one side in y1. So on a calculator, I'm going to let y1 equal x over x plus 2 over x plus 2, x plus 3. And in y2, I'm going to put 5 over, I don't know what that is because I can't see it anymore, x plus 3. All right, so I'm going to plug that in my graphing calculator. If you have an 83, you're going to get little heartbeats of the asymptotes. The 84 doesn't do that. The 83 looks weird, but let's see. Alpha, I'm going to do the fractions because it's really complicated. So I have x over x plus 2. Plus alpha fraction 2 over x plus 2 times x plus 3. And that equals 5 over x plus 3. So alpha f1 fraction. Got an extra 0 floating around, so let me get rid of that thing. All right. So I plug both sides into y1 and y2. Then I'm going to graph it and find the intersections. So I'm going to hit graph. Now it's nice in that you see at -2. See, they don't really cross, right? So it's extraneous, right? But it does cross right here. So I'm going to go find that. I hit second, trace, intersect, which is number 5. Press enter 3 times. And there it is. I get x equals 4, which is what I got from my algebra, right? So the graphing calculator, you can solve any equation this way on a graphing calculator. Plug one side in y1, one side in y2, and find the intersection. All right. So remember that any equation can be done that way. All right. Is that okay? All right, so let me clear this. Maybe I can't clear it. Probably can't. All right, I'm gonna have to clear it. All right, so do you want me to go over A or B? Or are you feeling good about 5? I need to do A or B. Good. All right, so you should be able to solve rational equations. Now, domain. This was on a video. The deal with domain, and I'm going to show you a couple shortcuts for me because I did this one. It all comes down to basically, well, 2 things for you guys from right now. Square root. When I take the square root of something, whatever's under the square root has to be greater than or equal to 0 because you can't take the square root of a negative number. All right, and when you take a fraction, so 1 over something, the thing on the bottom can't be 0. Okay, and that's, and you could do 1 over the square root of something, which is kind of the combination of both of them. It can't be 0 and it has to be positive. So that leads to whatever's under there has to be strictly greater than 0. So it's me solving an inequality, all right, for these things or inequality. And if it doesn't involve, now there is another domain issue with ln's, logs. You're going to deal logs next week, so it's not yet. But with square roots, if it's not a square root of a fraction, something like that, if it doesn't have anything, the domain is always all reals. All right, and I could write that with brackets as negative infinity to infinity interval notation. All right, that's how I could write that. Okay, so if it's not a fraction, it's not a square root, the domain is all reals. So I'm going to probably do each of these because, yeah. So with a square root, I know that whatever's under there has to be greater than or equal to 0. So this is just me solving an inequality. All right, now this is a nice one because it's just got an x in it. So we're going to move the 3 over. And we're going to divide by 2. And my inequality get x is greater than or equal to 3/2. All right. Now, you're going to be expected to write that in interval notation. I personally like using a number line. I know that this is 3/2, and I'm including it. And greater than is this way, right? So in interval notation, I'm going from 3/2 to infinity. Infinity always has a round bracket, and I want to include 3/2. I'm going to put a square bracket by it. right? Remember, square bracket is where we include it. Closed dot round bracket is where we exclude it. All right. Now, C is a little, probably the more difficult case of these domain things because it's a quadratic, because this tells me that what's under here, x squared minus 4x plus 3 has to be greater than or equal to 0, which means I'm solving a quadratic inequality. I'm going to show you a shortcut, but first I got to figure out where it equals 0. Let's figure that out first, because those are going to be my boundaries. Plus 3. All right, so I need factors of positive 3 that add to negative 4, right, which would be I think I heard it, negative 3 and negative 1. So this factors x minus 3 and x minus 1 equals 0. So it equals 0 and x is 3 and x is 1. Now, at this point, there's a couple things you can do. You can go in, I think I'll just graph it. All right, so here's my number line. I know it equals 0 at 1 and 3. And honestly, I could also just graph it to begin with and look at it. But let me get my calculator. And I'm going to go into y equals, and I'm going to graph this thing. X squared minus 4x plus 3. And I'm going to graph. So you can see that that is 0 at 1 and 3. You can pretty much see it, right, where it crosses the x-axis. Now, I need to know where it's positive because I want it to be greater than 0. So I can pretty much tell, looking at the graph, it's positive where it's above the x-axis. So it's above the x-axis less than 1. And it's negative, and then it goes up positive. So it's positive out here, and it's negative here. So for it to be positive, I'm going to have two intervals, and it could be equal. So I'm going to go from negative infinity to 1. And because I've got the equal, I'm going to use a square bracket. And I'm going to go from 3 to infinity, right? That would be its domain. Okay. Now, you also can check this on the graphing calculator. All right. You can completely do it on the graphing calculator. Let me kind of show you that. I think I showed you guys this. Can't remember which class I showed, which one I didn't. They have a test button, x squared minus 4x plus 3. So I can do something completely different. Not completely, but I'm going to add something. I want to know pretty much just where that thing is positive. If you have trouble reading the graphs, hit second test, and I want greater than or equal to 0. What that does is where it's positive, it's going to return a 1. Where it's negative, it's going to return a 0. So if I graph that, so you can pretty much see, oh, it's from 1 down and from 3 up, right? So there we go. All right, so you can also do that. All right, that's probably the hardest domain one. All right, with fractions, I think the harder thing is just writing the interval notation. I'm going to do D down here. Actually, can I clear this off? Are you still writing? Looks like some people are still writing, so let me give them a second. Okay. Let me do this. There's something in space. There we go. All right, so the last one, when you have a fraction, remember to deal with fractions is the bottom can't be 0. So basically x plus 3, I have to figure out where the bottom equals 0. If it's something, a polynomial in the bottom, I would have to factor it. This one's not. So if I move the 3 over, I get x is negative 3. So I know that x can't be negative 3. And if you have trouble with how to write that with interval notation, here's negative 3. So it can be everything below it and above it. So what I have two intervals here. All right. So my first interval goes from negative infinity to negative 3 with a round bracket because we don't want to include it. And the second interval goes from negative 3 to infinity, right? That's how I write everything but negative 3. right, good, good. All right, so domain, two issues, square roots and fractions, right? That's all I gotta worry about, okay? All right, so let's clear this. Maybe. All right, so this next one, number 7, simple interest problem. You can't use the TVM solver. That's not part of my class. It's part of our class, right? So it's just simple interest. So we're just going to need to know the formula for simple interest. I equals PRT, right? So it's what I put in there, the principal times the rate times the time. So this is the principal, what I put in there, initial amount, basically. This is the interest rate as a decimal and time in years. Okay, so they ask you a question like this. Ernie has a savings account with $5,000 in his credit union. Account pays interest of 2% simple interest. How much will he earn in 5 years? So basically, I just need to list it. So the principal is 5,000. The interest rate's 2%. As a decimal, it's 0.02, and time would be 5 years. So we do interest equals 5,000 times 0.02 times 5, right? That's all I need to do. And plug it in my calculator. Oops, yeah, 500 times 0.02 times 5. All right, he gets $500, simple interest. All right, so that's about all you're going to see from me. I mean, you know, you've got your TVM solver in your other class, so you don't have to worry about that. All right, are we okay with that? Yeah. Okay. So the other thing you will have to do is function notation. All right, that's on a video. We didn't talk about it. Function notation, pretty much. This is, you know, rather than calling a function y, they call it f of x. That's how it's read. It doesn't say f times x. It's read f of x. And all they're doing is they're telling you this is f. This is read f of 6. And so that tells you that you're going to plug in x equals 6 into the equation. That's all it's telling you. So, you know, f of 6, I'll write it down here. Just plugging in 6 for x. If it's, so we get 6 squared minus 6 times 6 plus 5. And I'm going to do it by hand. I could do it in a calculator, but this is 36 minus 36 plus 5. So I'm going to get 5. Okay. That's all you're doing, just plugging numbers in. The one thing I do want to mention, f of -1, when you plug in a negative and you're using that calculator, you put that negative in parentheses if you're going to use the calculator. So this would be -1 parentheses squared. See, I'm just plugging that in there. Minus 6 times -1 plus 5, right? That's all I got to do. But make sure you get parentheses around that -1 if you're entering the calculator, you won't get the right answer. Because -1 squared is +1. Let's see, 1 minus 6, I get -5. It's going to work out to be 0, okay? So you see how you're just plugging numbers in there, right? It has nothing to do with multiplication. It's just telling you plug this number in for x. Okay? All right, this is different because it's asking you where does f of x equal 6, all right? Where is a dead hint? They're asking for x. But f of x is this. So what we're doing is replacing that with 6 instead, and we're solving for x. So now it's simple. Plus 3, you get 9. Divide by 2, so I get x is 9/2, okay? So that's where f of x equals 6. There's something I wanted to tell you. All right, we okay with that? All right, inequalities, solving simple inequalities. These are well, let's do B and C because they're the ones I'm worried about. All right. So when they're linear, they're very easy. Do you remember when you flip the inequality? Remember, you have to flip it. Okay, I'm gonna write it down because nobody told me. So when you multiply or divide by negative, flip the inequality. I think I'll give you some reasoning as to why you do that, just so you can understand that. I'm going to write a simple inequality. You know that 1 is less than 3, right? That's true. Okay. So if I multiply this by negative 1, let's multiply both sides of this by negative 1. Now I'm comparing negative 1 to negative 3. Well, negative 3 is less than 1, so it flips the inequality. So when you multiply by negative, it's going to flip the inequality. Okay? So let's do b here. So if I were doing b, I'd move the 1 over. I get negative x is less than 6, right? When I divide by that negative, I get negative 6 here, but I'm going to flip the inequality. So x is greater than negative 6, okay? And again, you're going to put this in an interval notation. It's from negative 6 up to infinity. So with interval notation, negative 6 to infinity. All right? Is that okay? Okay. And this is really the same problem we were working before. When you have a quadratic, you have to do a kind of sign test or use a calculator. I have to figure out where it equals 0 first. So this would factor x plus 5 and x plus 1. So x equals negative 5 and negative 1. So I could put that on my number line. And I want it to be greater than 0, so I'm going to graph it. X squared plus 6x plus 5. Graph. All right, so you can see where it's above the x-axis, it's positive. So not between negative 5 and negative 1, but out here, it's positive there, and it's negative there, right? So if I want where it's greater than 0, you're going to have 2 intervals, right? So you're going to go from negative infinity to negative 5. I'm using the round bracket because it's strictly greater than here. And from negative 1 to infinity, okay? Is that all right? Now, if I gave you it the other way, right, just to mention this, no, we'll flip it all the way. We'll say it's less than or equal to 0. So if I want where it's negative, now we're talking about this region here, right, is where it's negative. So I only have one region. I go from negative 5 to negative 1. And I'm going to use square brackets because I put an equal in there. Okay. If you have an equal, you're going to use square. If you don't have an equal, you're going to use round. All right, is that okay? All right, do I need to do any more with inequalities? You guys good? Write this one down. Where's my somebody? That's what I need. All right. I'm going to clear this. All right, now, again, the graphing quadratics is on a video. I don't know which one at the moment, but so with graphing quadratics, a couple things you want to know. You want to know where it opens up, where it opens down. You want to be able to find the vertex, which is the peak or the valley, the x-intercepts, the y-intercepts. So, and a lot of this can be done with a graphing calculator. I'm going to do one by hand and one with a calculator. I'm always going to give you something that factors. Let's start with the vertex. So if I'm doing the vertex by hand, let's talk about open up or open down, because really that needs to come first. All right, so if you have a negative x squared out front, a negative, any number with x squared, it's going to open down. And if it's positive, it's going to open up. Okay. When I was a high school teacher, you know, negative people are sad. I didn't have room. So you draw a sad face. Positive people are happy, so you draw a happy face, right? So if the leading term is positive, it opens up. If it's negative, it opens down. I can also just graph it on the calculator, but we're gonna just do this first one by hand. So because the leading term is negative, I know that it opens down. So that's the answer to B. I did that first. Okay. Now, to find the vertex, it's actually not all that difficult to do it by hand, but you do have to remember the formula. Vertex is the peak of this thing, and it happens at x equals negative b over 2a. So you have to remember that formula if you're going to do it by hand, negative, which I really kind of like, but negative b over 2a. So in this particular case, b is 6 and a is -1, right? Because this is your a, your b, and your c, right? All right, so I do negative b, so it's -6, divided by 2 times -1 is -2. So if I divide those, I get 3. So that is the x coordinate of the vertex, okay? Now they want both coordinates. So you're gonna take what x is, and you're gonna go plug it back in here to get y. So y would be -3 squared, and I'll put parentheses around that because it's positive. All right, so this would be -9 plus 18 minus 8. So, you know, if you work that math out, 18 minus 9 is 9, minus 8 is 1. So the vertex is going to happen at 3, 1. Okay. All right, now I'm going to do the y-intercept next because it's easier. The y-intercept, you just set x equal to 0. So if I set x equal to 0 in this equation here, I get -0 squared plus 6 times 0 minus 8. These are all zeros, so it's just -8, right? So y-intercepts are easy. It's always the case. No matter what I give you, the y-intercept, set x to 0. All right. The x-intercepts are where it crosses the x-axis. It's the same thing as the roots. We're going to factor it. All right. So I don't like a negative leading term, so I'm going to take a negative out. That's going to change all the signs. I just don't like a negative. All right. So I changed all the signs. Now we're going to factor it. I need factors of +8 that add to -6. So numbers that multiply to +8 that add to -6. So what are they going to be? Yeah, -4, -2. So this is going to factor negative x minus 4, x minus 2. If I set that equal to 0, x minus 4 is 0, x minus 2 is 0, and that's going to work out to x equals 2 or 4, all right? So first of all, I did it all by hand, all right? If you're going to do it by hand, make sure you know the formula for the x coordinate of the vertex, all right? Now, I could also use a calculator. All right, so we're going to pull the calculator out and talk about the calculator. So I'm going to do the same problem, but with a calculator. So I'm going to go into y equals, and I'm going to graph it. What was it? -x squared plus 6x minus 8, just to show you how it works with a calculator. All right. All right, graph. All right, you want to be able to see it. I can see the top of it, and I can see the 0, so this is fine. I mean, I don't need all this up here. If you want, I can make y a little smaller. I'll make y max 5 because I really don't need that much. Yeah, all right. I can make x min smaller too. -5. I mean, I'm just playing. All right. So a couple things. I can pretty much see already that the roots would be 2 and 4, which is what I got, right? Those are the x-intercepts. I can see the vertex looks to be 3, 1. I'll check that. I can see the y-intercept 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is -8. So pretty much just by looking at the graph, I can tell all the stuff, right? But just to remind you how to find the stuff, using a calculator to find the vertex, you hit second, calc. I want to find, it's either minimum or maximum. If it opens down like it does there, this is a minimum. If it opens up, it's a maximum. So in my case, the graph is a maximum, so I want number 4. And it comes back and says left bound. You just use the arrow keys, you move the cursor to the left of the maximum, which, you know, right there is good. And it says right bound, and I move the cursor over to the right-hand side, press enter, I press enter, and look, there's a maximum 3, 1, right, which is what we found by hand, okay? So the calculator can do this, no problem, all right? I want to find the zeros exactly, let's say they weren't exactly there, remember you can type y2 equals 0, graph it, and then go find the intersections of the red and blue line, right? So I can hit second, trace, intersect. It'll find the one it's closest to, so it found 2, second, trace. Do the same thing, but move the cursor over toward the other one. Enter, 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 right, and there we have it, okay? And the y-intercept, if you'd like, if you can't see it, second calc, you can do second calc value, let x be 0, comes back y is -8. So the calculator does all this for you as well, so, you know, okay? So whatever you want to do. The only thing with the calculator is, you know, you may have to adjust the window. You need to be able to see the vertex and the zero, so you may have to adjust your window, okay? All right, is that okay? All right, so those are graphing quadratics. All right, so now let me put that up there for a second. Okay. All right, I'm going to clear this. All right, so solving equations, solving systems of equations. You can do it by hand or you can do it with a calculator. If you do it with a calculator, you always have to solve for y. If you do it by hand, you don't have to. So I think I want to do the second one. Well, yeah, let's do them both. All right, I think I got time. If I solve this by hand, all right, a couple ways to do it. You can do elimination, like where you move the x over. So if I move the -4x over, I have -4x plus y equals -1. I have to line them up if I'm going to do elimination. With elimination, you multiply this by a number to get rid of it. So like it'd be easy to multiply this one by 2 because that'll give me a 4x. Over down here, I'm just multiplying everything by 2, including the answer. And once I do that, I can add these together. So the purpose of elimination is to make these make 2 of them match, one positive, one negative. So we add them, they go away. It's -4x plus 4x is 0. Y plus 6y is 7y. 12 minus 1 is 11. So y would be 11 over 7. That's growth. All right. But we only have, the thing is, you have to find both of them. So now I have to go back and find x. So I'm going to plug it back into one of the equations. So if y equals 4x minus 1, y is 11 over 7. So I'm going to plug that in. I'm going to add 1. I'm going to use my calculator. 11 over 7 plus 1. I get, well, I just hit math frac. I get 18 over 7. So 18 over 7 equals 4x. So I'm going to divide 18 sevenths by 4. I'm going to do it this way. 18 over 7 is that as a decimal divided by 4. And you math frac. Then 9 over 14. Okay, so that would be the point of intersection. All right, so you can, there's several ways to do it algebraically. You can solve one for y. You know, another way would be to plug this back in for y. There's a lot of ways to solve them when they're lines. Let's just show you the calculator. To use the calculator, they have to both be set to y. So, you know, you've got the one equation, y equals 4x minus 1. That's good to go, right? I got to solve the other one. So I'm going to, for y, so I'm going to move the 2x over and make it negative. So 3y equals negative 2x plus 6. Divide by 3. You get y equals negative 2/3 x plus 2. All right. So I can take this guy and plug them into the calculator. All right. All right, so plug them in. I'll go to y equals. So the one y equals was 4x minus 1. The other one, negative 2/3 x plus 2. All right, I can see the intersection, so I just go find it. Second, trace, intersect, which is 5. Press enter 3 times. And we get 0.6428571 and 1.57, whatever. Hopefully that's the same as my fractions. I'm going to check it just to make sure. So 9/14. Let's see what that as a decimal is. 9/14. 0.6428557. Is that what I got? Oops, I forgot. Lost it. Yeah, it was. All right. Yeah. Well, here. It was the same thing, right? So I know I did it right. Okay. So you can find solutions. You can use the calculator. If you're going to use the calculator, the downfall is you have to solve for y correctly, right? And if you're going to use the algebra, you got to do the math right. All right. But one way or another, you got to be able to. A problem like this is very easy to, well, remember the f and g are the same thing as y. So if you like, you can replace those with y. And you can plug them in the calculator and find the intersections. There's going to be 2 of them. Algebraically, this is really easy to solve because they're both y, so you just set them equal to each other. Okay, to find their intersection. And so it says find the points of intersection and solve the solutions. It's the same thing. So if I minus 4, this is why I say it's easy. It's going to make the 4 go away. And 0. And this is something I can factor. There's only 2 terms, so I'm going to take out a common factor. The common factor is 2x. And I'm left with x minus 3. So by factoring 2x equals 0, or x minus 3 equals 0. If 2x equals 0, x is 0. And this gives me x is 3, right? Okay. My other option, graphing calculator, just plug them in and find the intersections. I guess I'll do that real quick. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. What happened? Where'd it go? I know, if I hit undo, it'll all come back. Yep, okay. There it is. All right, so, you know, if I just type in y is 4, the other one was 2x squared minus 6x plus 4. If I hit graph, all I needed to do is just go find those intersection points, second trace, intersect, 5. Enter, 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 and I get 1 at 3, which is a solution, right? I just never wrote it. Watch out with 0. I should mention this to you guys, and we'll see what the calculator does. Okay. I want you to see what it says there. It says negative 7.07 e to the negative 15th. All right. I want you to understand that that is a very, very small number. It is 0. All right. The calculator has some round off issues and it may not get all the way down to 0. Because what that means is negative 7 times 10 to the 15 times 10 to the negative 15. So if you move that decimal place over 15 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You know, you've got a bunch of zeros here, right? So you understand that that is essentially 0. Okay, so don't let that freak you out when your calculator comes back. If it says e to the negative something real small, it's 0. Okay, the calculator just has trouble with 0 sometimes. Is that okay? All right, and again, B is doing this part B again. Let me clear this off. This is doing the exact same thing with a calculator. Just to mention, I could plug this into Y1 and Y2 and find the intersections, right? I can also do that with a calculator. I can also graph it. I can move everything over. So I get 2x squared. If I move the x over, I get minus x. If I add the 1, it'd be minus 6, 0. And that will factor. Now, when you're finding solutions, notice I don't want the y's here. I just want the x's because I'm only solving for x. So, you know, if you use the graphing calculator, let's plug it in just to show you. X minus 1, I get 2x squared minus 7. All right, you see there's 2 intersection points there. Let me go find one. I only found one of them right now, but it says x is 2 and y is 1. I don't care about y, because I'm not finding a point of intersection. I'm just finding solutions. So my only solution is x equals 2, right? And down here, whatever that is, now I'll go find it. And we have to move it down toward the other intersection. Enter, x is negative 1.5. So x is only concerned when you're solving equations, right? So what I want, the point I want to make to you is here, you're finding x and y. Find the point of intersection, you're finding x and y. Find the solution, here you're only finding x. Okay? But you're always doing the same thing. All right, I think that's it. The bottom line to this test, you know, pretty much it's a lot of factoring, right? We did a lot of factoring today. So you should be able to factor solving equations either by hand or with your graphing calculator, graphing quadratics, finding all those things there. Inequalities, remembering when you divide by negative, you flip the inequality. Remember to use your brackets, square brackets when you want equals, round brackets when you don't. Function notation, you plug in the value for x. Simple interest domain, remember your issues are fractions and square roots. All right, that's it. Vertical asymptote, set the bottom to 0. Simplifying rational expressions and solving them. Simplifying, factor and cancel, solving them, plug them in a graphing calculator, or go ahead and multiply by the common denominator. All right, and then quadratics. All right, so that's pretty much it. Was not a high volume test. All right, so you get 2 tries with this test because there are some like free response where you got to enter the brackets and whatnot. So I gave you 2 tries. And it'll open tomorrow or tonight at midnight, and then it'll stay open until Monday at midnight. Okay, because you have Thanksgiving, kind of up to you guys whether you want to get done early or let it ride depending on where you're at. Okay, the homework should be done up through 10-3 this Sunday, right? 10-2 and 10-3 should be done. 10-2 should already be, but it's due this Sunday because and then the test, right? Okay, so make sure you do 10-2 and 10-3 before you take the test.
I have a question about the second test.
Yeah.
If we redo it, do we get it for a 70 for retaking it, or do we actually get to do a full retake?
You full 2 tries.
Dope.
Okay, so this test usually has a higher average, and the other one will give you 2 tries. All right, so it should, as long as you know the material, it should be pretty easy. All right, kind of to tell you what's coming up. I think we have 1 more week, so I do 10-4, 10-5, which are logs and domain, and not domain. Difference quotient, which you'll be starting out in 1325 with. The final, I have a practice final, which next week I'll post when we come back. And I basically made a practice final, kind of just like the final. The final is multiple choice, 20 questions. You get like an insane amount of time to do it, like 2 hours. You won't use 2 hours, but I have a practice final just like the final. So, okay, so that's my plan as we go on. Remember, after Thanksgiving, this is our last in-person class. So everything's on Zoom. That doesn't mean that I can do it whenever I feel like. That means you log in at your class time and we do our class. We just do it all on Zoom, okay? I won't be here. I'll be at my house, okay? And then that's it. So we have 1 more week, and then I think we have finals, all right? November 30th is Q drop. So remember that if you need to drop 1324 or this class. You can get credit for this class without 1324, right? You can't get credit for 1324 without this class, right? You want to understand. So make sure you're passing this class. Sorry if you're passing 1324. But November 30th is coming up. That's in a week, right? 6 days. So don't forget about that if you're in that situation. Okay? All right, well, I'm pretty well done. Any other questions?
We're not meeting up on Thursday, are we?
No? I'm
Cool.
eating turkey.
Okay, me too.
My son's coming in from Alabama and my daughter's coming in with her baby. They just started crawling, so yeah. Okay. I'll be unavailable on Thursday. Okay. All right, you guys have a good week and I will talk to you on Tuesday of next week. Okay, how many food response? I'm sorry, what was the question?
How many food response questions?
I don't know. I think it might be half of them, but it's not like anything. It's like you have to write the brackets as opposed to, you know,
It's a little bit easier than a 1324 one. It's all of her like.
it's all for each one's now. It's just, you have to just type the answers because, you know, it's really hard to do some of these, like these inequalities. It's hard to do them, like simplify the rational expression with multiple choice. So there's certain things I have on there that it's just, yeah, you just have to type the answer.
To kind of just watch the videos and.
Yeah, you watch the videos, it's there, and you do the review is just like the test. I mean, there's only 12 problems on review, so.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
All right, you too.
Miss Miller?
Yeah.
So do you want to meet tomorrow or do you have any extra time right now? Or should we just,
We got till 2:40, so you want me to look your stuff up and see if I can find out what's going on?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm gonna, all right, let me see if I can get this up for you. Is there
Okay.
anybody else that's on that has any questions? It looks like 4 or 5 of them are asleep, so, because they're just blank screens in front of me. All right. Let's see, Madeline, do you have any questions? No, Brady? Do you have any questions?
No, ma'am. I'm
Okay,
good.
Hayden, do you have any questions?
I came in late, so I wanted to make sure you didn't mark me as absent.
Right, I saw it.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you for telling me because you're, all right. Caitlin, do you have any questions? Cindy, do you have any questions? And Emma, do you have any questions? These guys they're just asleep or not there. All right, so, and, you know, you're responsible for yourselves, right? So, all right, I'm going to look at your stuff and see if we can figure out what's going on.
Okay.
Am I sharing my screen with you right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm gonna see my problem. Let me show you what's going on.
Okay.
And I think we may have to contact MATLAB because I don't know why, or Pearson. What is going on? It won't open. That's not good. Hold on, give me a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
There it goes. All right. Okay, so let me show you what's going on here. Maybe you can give me some background on what's going on. So
Okay.
when I go into Pearson, right, I've got a grade book in Pearson that
Mm-hmm.
I look at. When I go to look at the class list, you're not on there. See how you're missing?
Yes. So I am listed as Caitlin Campbell.
Oh, okay. That's why I couldn't find you. Oh,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am. So I'm able to access it from like when I log into my
Okay, that's important to me. All right, so let's see what's going on with quiz 4. Where is it? Quiz 4. Says you finished it on the 22nd, right? And you got a score of 93. It's not showing up as late at all.
Okay, on my end, I haven't checked it today, but when I emailed you, it said that it was past due and that I could use it for.
93 right here in my grade book, so there's no reason that should say that. So if it doesn't change, let me know. But
Okay.
do that.
Okay, sounds good. I don't know why it was saying that on my end.
I don't know. All right, but give it a day. If it doesn't change, let me know.
Yes, ma'am. I will. Thank you for checking.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's the only question I had. So I'll just, if for some reason it still shows it on my end.
Let me know, but it should sync, you know, once the grades sync, I don't know, every 24 hours, so it should sync and put that, I don't know why it even showed it up as late, because it's not showing that at all.
Yeah, it just had like the little timer like symbol on my end on my math lab. It wasn't showing as a grade any campus yet. I was just checking my math lab to make sure I had
Right.
done everything.
And
So
Math Lab doesn't have a problem with it, so.
okay, perfect. Well, thank you for checking. That's all I had. So
No problem. All right.
thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, same to you. All right, any of you guys left have any questions? I'm taking that's a no. Any questions?